Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning in to episode 494 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube. As always, we are getting closer and closer to 500, and I think we have pretty much decided, I use the royal we, what's happening for episode 500. I've got a little bit of a surprise planned up my sleeve, but I will tell you what it is nearer the time. We've still got a few more videos to go, and gosh, have you got a lot to say about this one? For the benefit of those of you watching live, the idea is that we're going to do a quick review of this new Guerlain, and then we'll take a 2-minute break and we will come back with one of our seasonal lists, because of course autumn officially started, about 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, something like that. So summer is over, which means we need to do one of our top 10 seasonal lists, but that will be coming up in a few minutes. So as I always say, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. If you would like to find out how you can support my work, you should be able to see a link to my Ko-fi page in the video description below. And if you enjoy the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, because that is extremely helpful. But what are we doing today in this video? And how come you've all got so much to say about it? Okay, so the subject of our review is, and I'm getting to the first comment, don't worry, is this new flanker of Guerlain Shalimar. I will explain what it is for those of you who don't know, but it's one of their Millesime flankers, and this is a Millesime Jasmin, which is why Jeff Sheen, who gives us our first comment today, said, Jasmin or Jalimar, either way, I'm intrigued. I think you need to patent those, because I think one day somebody needs to do a perfume called either Jalimar or Jasmin. But a lot of you, I guess, have either already tried this or are waiting to try this. Aileen on Beauty says, hello, super interested to hear your thoughts. I have all of the recent flankers and hated the Iris flanker last year. I'm waiting for the delivery of the Jasmine flanker, but have read bad reviews. Dave NYC says, hello, all voting for Jalimar. For once, I have arrived on time, says Mitra Kai. Is that right? Hello, Mr. P from Graz in Austria, says Alex. Another Sunday with Persolaise. My scent of the day is Bala Versailles. Ooh, nice. Hope this is better than last year's Caramel Bomb, says Jeff. I stick with the original masterpiece, says Alex. I didn't like the Iris either, says David Santiago. This one, I think I just can't see the end bottom of the comment. This one is fantastic. Jen O says, another Millesime, is this now required every year? So fantastic segue into this. So yes, in 2021, Guerlain decided to give us a limited edition flanker of their classic Shalimar, their scent from 1925, which made me think they must be planning something for next year. There's bound to be some kind of special Shalimar release next year. I hope that whatever they do, because Guerlain are very, very good at doing unattainably expensive limited editions. You know, we're talking things that are like jewel encrusted and cost tens of thousands of pounds, you know, literally tens of thousands of pounds. But I hope that whatever they do, they also do some sort of version for mere mortals. Anyway, in 2021, they did a Shalimar Millesime, the idea being that it would showcase a particular ingredient, and that one, surprise, surprise, showcased what they claimed was a special crop of vanilla that they got. Then in 2020, and we liked that one. In 2022, they did Millesime Tonka. And in 2023, as a lot of you have already mentioned, they did a Millesime Iris. Now, I was convinced by the vanilla. I was convinced by the Tonka. I found myself quite unconvinced by the Iris. And I'm not alone. And so I wondered what would happen with the Millesimes. I thought, you know, were they going for a hat trick, and then did they think, let's leave it? But no, clearly not. And for this year, they've given us a Millesime which, I don't know if you agree with me, but features a kind of unlikely ingredient in relation to Shalimar, because it's a jasmine, or jasmin, we should say. And at first, I found myself being a little bit perplexed. And I thought, okay, so, you know, jasmine, Shalimar, I don't necessarily think of it as being a jasmine-heavy scent. But then I actually started thinking that conceptually, this was very interesting, because, of course, Shalimar, the name, refers to some famous gardens, which are in a part of the world that is now Pakistan. Back in 1925, it wasn't Pakistan; it was India. And you know, Shalimar is a beautiful scent. It's a gorgeous scent. I actually fought for a bottle of Shalimar to be placed on the cover of my book right there. It is one of my absolute favorites of all time, and probably in my top 3 feminine perfumes. And I don't want to judge the past through the prism or the lens of the present, because therein lies madness. But I suppose nowadays, a brand, probably a Western brand, a French brand, probably wouldn't call a fragrance Shalimar, because they would be accused of cultural appropriation or exoticizing the East, etc., etc., etc. And that's one bit of the Shalimar story that now, I guess we can say, hasn't aged very well, in the same way that the Abbey Rouge story, which references hunting and fox hunting, hasn't aged very well either. But I thought, okay, jasmine is actually a perfect ingredient to highlight in that regard, because it is a very, very Indian, traditionally, ingredient. And I thought, oh, would this be a wonderful way of taking Shalimar back to its conceptual roots? You know, to take the basic Shalimar structure, which is a classic vanillic, leathery amber with a huge dose of bergamot at the top, and make it somehow more Asian, more sort of focused on the Asian subcontinent. So I was getting all excited, thinking, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be an interesting one. Olfactive Story says they're releasing Millesime versions based on the Guerlain ingredient, so I guess we will have a bergamot and a rose version too. Yeah, you may well be right. And it's available on the Guerlain UK website, which I guess means it must be available on all the Guerlain websites. As soon as it became available, I snapped it up because I wanted to try it and I wanted to share thoughts with you. And so I sprayed it, and my initial response was, and I noticed that there is already a fair amount of love for this one, but my initial response was a little bit muted. And I have to say, I guess, disappointed, because what do you get at first spray? What do you get at first sniff? So Siage says, how about Shalimar Amberwood? Eric says, I imagine something overtly foodie like Shalimar Light. Jeff says, I thought this would come across as a layering of the extortionately expensive Jasmine X-Ray with Shalimar EDT. Interesting. Okay, but what do you get? You get, at least to my nose, something that is a kind of soapy jasmine. And here it is again. Maybe there's something about the link between the jasmine note and the bergamot that somehow starts. Well, I'm going to say it because you know, I was disappointed when I first sprayed. I thought it smelled cheap, and smelling it now upon first spray, we do have a pre-spray blotter. Again, I'm getting that kind of cheap jasmine feel, cheap citrus feel, and my heart sank, and I thought, oh, okay, so this is going to go into the iris category for me, because I really wasn't terribly impressed with last year's iris. And I you know, found myself thinking, gosh, why did they do that? Why does it seem to be presenting these kind of fabric softener, musky floral type notes? And then I found myself thinking terribly, you know, cynical thoughts, shock horror, about LVMH, and thought, oh, so they had 2 successful millisimes, and they thought, let's push out a Shalimar made with, you know, quite cheap ingredients, because everybody's going to go for it because it's a Shalimar flanker, etc., etc., etc. And I thought, oh dear, it's going to be the review is going to be a bit of a downer. And then I got on with my day, and it was a day where I had to spend a lot of time in front of a screen, in front of the computer. And so I just placed the Millesime Jasmine blotter, you know, right next to me, about a foot away. And seriously, within about half an hour, my nose kept getting drawn to it, and I kept thinking, oh, have I been too harsh on this thing? it's really starting now to smell quite interesting, quite intriguing, as though the jasmine is almost sort of blooming and maturing and blossoming and not coming out as an overt jasmine, but somehow really, really marrying itself to that amber structure. And then I kind of, again, got on with the typing that I was doing, with the writing that I was doing, thinking, oh, I'm just being excessively forgiving towards it. But no, I kept pulling up this blotter and smelling it. Then I sprayed some on my skin, and then the initial burst, again, was a little bit off-putting. But of course, initial bursts like that fade a lot faster on skin. And I guess this is a long-winded way of saying that I remain conflicted. I then had to seek Madame Persolaise's opinion, her view, and I didn't tell her what it was. I didn't tell her what brand it was. I never tell her those sorts of things when I really want to kind of get a totally sort of honest opinion. And she did exactly the same thing. When she first smelt it, she sort of went, "Oh," but then she sort of immediately went back in and thought, "Oh, that's quite interesting, actually." And she is a big Shalimar wearer. In fact, and this is going to be relevant to our next video, she wore Shalimar just the other day. She did not recognize it as a Shalimar. You don't get a huge amount of Shalimariness in this at all, and certainly not a kind of obvious Shalimariness. I think it helps. If you know that it's a Shalimar flanker, that's when you can start seeing the structural connections. But it isn't an obvious Shalimar flanker at all in that sense. And she also kept kind of going, "Oh, actually, this is quite interesting. What is it, etc., etc." A grower, not a shower, says Tracy. You said it. So Gavin says, spray it on your gym jams. You will wake to it with your true reaction. That's interesting. Is that what you do? Can't say I've ever done that myself. How does it compare to Alien, except for the cashmere? Oh, how did we get onto Alien? I don't know. Does it? Oh, because of the jasmine. No, that's really, Alien is so otherworldly and strange, and such a huge cashmere bomb. It doesn't make me think of Alien at all. It's always very intriguing when a scent grows, says Alex. Now, here is another pre-sprayed one. So pre-sprayed Millesime Jasmin. Yeah, it definitely gets better as it develops. And I would much rather that than what happens with the vast majority of other modern perfumes, where they show a fair amount of promise at the beginning and then they let you down in a major way as they start to get to the dry down. But this is intriguing. And what is it that we're getting? So at this stage, and this one was sprayed, I wanted to spray it, more than sort of 3 hours before doing the broadcast. So this was sprayed about 4 or 5 hours ago. So we are now truly in dry down territory, I would say. It's quite abstract, actually. It is also maybe somewhat unexpected, because it's not an out and out jasmine. The first two, the first one was an out and out vanilla. The second one was an out and out tonka. This isn't an overt jasmine, but it's a kind of gentle, not overly sweet, floral leather. And I have to say, it's way more interesting than I thought it would be when I first sprayed it. And it does change a lot. Yeah, see, it's quite a different beast. I think I would be quite surprised if you told me that this would go to this. Does the opening seem intentional, or do you feel it's just not well blended, says Michael? I don't know. I'm sure it's intentional. I don't have a press release as such, but let's just very briefly look at the blurb that accompanies the scent. Symbol of a legendary love story, says the brand. The myth of Shalimar's eternal sensual scent is being reborn in an all-new light. In tribute to Jasmine, the heart of the jewel created by Jacques Guerlain, the house unveils Shalimar Millesime Jasmin. From the very first moment, bergamot's tangy freshness blends in with its dazzling vegetal nuances. While the irresistible encounter between, they say, Indian, Italian, and grass grandiflorum jasmine and Indian sambac jasmine radiates an inimitable seduction at its heart. Balanced in its delicateness and sensuality, the most captivating facets of the starry duo blend harmoniously with the vanilla tincture, the signature of Shalimar's legendary amber accord. And Delphine Jelk, who is the perfumer behind this one, actually talked about the Guerlain vanilla tincture in an interview that I posted on my Substack a few weeks ago. Then it goes on to say, the beating heart of this new Millesime Jasmin features a unique and delightful palette of aromas. It is to this treasure of nature and icon of the Guerlain that Delphine Jelk pays tribute with a composition signed by the meeting of two exceptional jasmine essences. Faceted with precision and expert savoir-faire, the pairing showcases all its splendor at heart. The extract of Sambac jasmine comes with its fruity, sunny, and honeyed nuances, while the Grandiflorum Jasmine Absolute exalts its deep and sensual fragrance. Natalie says, my mind did go directly to Jasmin Bonheur on first spray, but I loved how it developed into something else. Interesting, interesting. Polpo says, so is it better than Millesime Iris? Oh, yeah. Yes, especially on the strength of the dry down. Veronica says, this is a very interesting version. I love it. And it took me on a 3-stage journey. See, interesting. It is beautiful on skin. I like this much more than Iris. Intriguing is the correct term. So basically, I guess, moral of this particular story is don't dismiss it at first sniff, because that first sniff is, yeah, I mean, the word, I would be lying to you if I didn't say that the word that came to my mind was cheap. I just smelt it and I thought, oh dear, what is this? But already, and when did we spray this? Like, what, about 10 minutes ago? Already you can feel something else coming through. Now, is it going to replace original Shalimar? No, but then, what will? I don't think even the first two flankers will replace it. But it is interesting, and when, probably in about a week's time or 10 days time, I post this review over on Persolaise.com, if I have any further thoughts, then I will include in the blog post. I think probably what I ought to do is just give this to Madame Persolaise and ask her to wear it for a few days and see what she thinks. Okay, do you prefer this or Jasmin Bonheur, says Woozy? This is a good question, but see, I wouldn't say go to this if you want a jasmine hit, because it's not. I did love Jasmin Bonheur. So, okay, you're asking me that question at this moment in time when I still don't know this fragrance all that well. I'm intrigued by this one, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Jasmin Bonheur. But they are very, very different scents, particularly in terms of price, okay? This, nowadays, falls into the category of affordable. Jasmin Bonheur, maybe not so much. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I would imagine this is the kind of perfume that a lot of you out there are going to be trying. So please feel free to leave a comment about it in the comments below. We will now take a break of a couple of minutes and come back with our list of the top 10 perfumes for autumn, which has started already. Thanks very much for watching. See you in a bit. Bye now.